Okay, it's time to get this operating system installed. So let's get this shit sorted. So at the moment I'm just sitting in the BIOS. So before we even get started with the operating system or anything like that, we're just gonna check that everything's recognized. So here we've got both sticks of memory. I have two 1 gig sticks in this desktop at the moment. So both of those are showing up, so that's fine. And then we also just want to check that all of our disk drives are showing up. So there's one plugged into SATA port 0 on this computer. Oops. So that's a 250 gig drive, and then in SATA 4 is the other hard drive, which is a 160 gigabyte hard drive. So we're going to be using this one for the operating system. Everything in the BIOS seems fine, so now that we've sorted that, we can exit the BIOS and go into the boot menu and start installing the operating system. Exit. Okay, so here we are at the boot menu. So the way you get here is just by spamming F12 while the computer's posting. So, and I'm pretty sure that's the same on almost every computer. So now that we're at the boot menu, we can select the device we want to boot from. So we want to go with the USB device. Okay, and here we are in the boot menu for the Debian installer, so we're just going to go down to install. Okay, so then you select your language, pretty self-explanatory, your country, so for me that's New Zealand, then key map is American English because that's the standard keyboard layout. Okay, and then it's just going to take a bit to load up all of their required files. So one thing it's going to do while it's doing all of this will configure the DHCP configuration. So for that you want to make sure that your network cable is already plugged into the computer, because if it isn't, then DHCP won't be configured, and doing that after the fact is kind of a pain in the ass, so it's just easier to do it now. Make sure that's configured. So that's what it's doing now, is configuring DHCP. Okay, and then you want to enter the hostname for the system. So this is the name it'll show up under, as the network. So obviously you can usually use an IP address to access servers and stuff like that, but host names can also be used in place of that. So we're going to use, I'm just going to call this YouTube server, because this is an accurate representation of the servers that are used for YouTube, Kappa. Okay, and then the domain name isn't important, so usually I just leave that blank, so we'll just ignore that. Okay, so then you're setting up users. So what you're doing here is setting the password for the root user, which is the admin account. So it always feels a little weird saying root user. If you're an Australian or a New Zealander, you'll understand what I meant by that. So we're just going to enter the password here. So I'll just use test as a password because it doesn't really matter. I'm not going to be using this thing beyond this video. other than potentially more videos in the future, but you'll have to stick around to see those. Yeah, so we'll just do that, and we'll re-enter to verify. Cool, that worked. Okay, so then what you're doing now is you're setting up a user that is non-root. So there's the root user, which is the admin account, and then you usually want to make another account. So with Linux security, usually what you want to use is, rather than being logged into the admin account and configuring everything that way, you use another account and then you use sudo, which elevates your privileges to allow you to do root user level stuff. So that's the safest thing. Mr. Test Man, because I'm a fucking retard like that. And we'll just hit next. So we'll just leave it like that, and the password for this, we'll just make it, you probably shouldn't make it the same as the root user, but as long as the password in general is secure and no one can easily guess it, it's probably fine. But I'm just going to do it for this video anyway, just because it's easier. Since this is mostly for demonstration purposes, this won't actually be entered. So my time zone is Auckland. Okay, so then for this, I purposely like to do it manually, so you don't have to, but it's always nice. So we're not going to set this as the boot disk, obviously we're not going to install on it, but we still just want to, at least now I'm just going to format the disk, that's the word I was looking for, so we're going to format it. Yes. Okay, so there we go, so that's free space now. So we're going to set this, create a new partition, set that size, it's going to be a primary. But the mount point is going to be do not mount. We'll go done setting up this partition. So that's the file disk ready. So then over here we're going to do the same. So we're just going to make that, yeah, and we'll create a new partition, set the size, primary, and this time the mount point will be left as the default. So we're just going to leave that, everything else is all good. We'll pop that on and go done. So so then down here, that's the boot disk, so we don't want to do anything with that, we just want to leave it. But now that we're done with the partitioning, we just want to go finish partitioning and write changes to disk. So that will just set everything up that we just set. It's complaining because there's no mount point for the 250 gigabyte hard drive. But I did that on purpose because we'll sort that out in operating system while we're configuring the disk to act as a file and media storage for the system, so we won't worry about that now, so we'll go no. And then this is warning us that there is no swap, so I'm fine with that, so I'm also just going to select no again. Okay, and then this is just warning us that these changes will be made. Okay, so now it's just installing the base system. So this one will take a while because it's all of the files. It's basically everything that the operating system needs. So you just want to let that run through. So recording cut out of here, so I don't know how much we missed. Okay, so this is basically just asking This is basically just asking if you want to install additional software during the installation, so I do. So my mirror for the Debian archive will be New Zealand, obviously. I'll just select the top one. Don't need a proxy, so we'll just hit that. Okay, and then it's configuring apt, and apt, which is short for aptitude, is the package manager that comes default with Debian. So after this stage we're going to get to a menu where we select additional packages we'd like. So during that stage we're just going to make sure we get some of the base stuff we need, but we're also just going to make sure that we don't download anything we don't need, like the graphical interface or anything like that. So we're going full terminal mode. Okay, so basically what it's prompting for now is it's asking if you want to send usage data to developers to help with the development of Debian. Also, you may want to turn it off if you're on a slow internet connection, that way your server's not constantly sending stuff out. So I'm going to say no to that, and then the installation will carry on. Okay, so here we are at the software selection. Screen that I was talking about earlier. So basically, what you're going to do here is select the software you do or don't want. So this is just some additional stuff. So we're going to turn off the Debian desktop environment as well as XFCE. So we don't really need a print server. Standard systems, utilities, that's fine. I'm going to go with the SSH server as well. So then we're just going to hit enter to continue. And that carries on with the software installation. Alright, so basically what's been asked here is the Grub bootloader is, well, the bootloader, so it manages what operating systems are booted into. So this option primarily concerns like if you're doing something like dual booting, you have to be careful with this one, but because we're just installing one operating system, it's just fine to go yes. Now it's asking us where we want to install the bootloader. So for this you just want to basically put it on the same disk as the operating system, which is for us it's going to be /dev/SDB. Especially don't install it on your USB disk, but we want to try get it on the same disk as the operating system, so we're just going to select SDB. So then that's just going to carry on installing. Okay, so now the installation is complete, so we're just going to go continue. It's just going to finish up some last minute stuff. Okay, cool. So there we are. So now we're booted into Debian. We'll just see if we can log in real quick. Login is Mr. Test Man. Okay, cool, we were able to log in. Okay, cool, and the IP address seems to have been set fine. So it all seems to be set up properly. Let's try make sure this Sweet Sue boot disk is showing up as well as our secondary one. So now that that's been set up, we can move over to the main PC and use SSH to access the server.